What's good, everybody, man? It's your boy, Tony D. Too Wild, checking in, and you are on Tech Too Wild. I'm a little under the weather, so forgive me. But today, we got one of those AI stories. At first, it sounds almost fake, right? The AI companies that win the next phase won't just have the best model, they'll have the power to actually run it at scale, right? And Claude just made that bet with SpaceX. Anthropic, the company behind Claude, Opus 4.6, 4.7, the company behind Sonnet and all the above, just announced a compute partnership with SpaceX. Yes, that's SpaceX, Tesla, Elon Musk. And according to Anthropic, they're going to use all that compute capacity at SpaceX's Colossus 1 data center. And we're talking about more than 300 megawatts of just new computer, over 220,000 Nvidia GPUs, and it's supposed to be starting to hit within the next month, right? Now, you probably, been hearing that and thinking, okay, cool, big data center, a bunch of GPUs, and, why should I care? Well, here's why. Off the rip, when this actually came out, as you can see right here on Twitter, now, not saying everything's gonna be perfect and promised, but even now, they're doubling the Claude Code's 5-hour rate limits from Pro Max and Team plans, removing peak hour limit reduction on Claude Code Pro, and substantially raising the API rate limits for Opus models. So they're getting more power, and they're going to be actually trying to utilize that to make things, I guess, better for us overall. But at the same time, not everything is, as good as it is, it's too good to be true. I get it. But this is not just a story about Claude getting more power either. This is a story about where the AI race itself is, where it's going next for the most part, right? Because everybody keeps talking about which model's the smartest. Is it Claude? Is it Chat GPT? Is it Gemini? Is it Grok? Who's the number one on this big benchmark or that benchmark? Who's the number one on this test? And I'll tell you myself, I'm even one of the people that do it as well. Like, I do it all the time, right? But the real world test that I think is going to be is not about what the smartest AI model can actually do, but what it can do at a certain amount of time. It doesn't matter if the app slows down at peak hours. It doesn't matter if the coding agent stops right when you're in the middle of building something. It's going to be more so about how much power it actually can, have and take in, right? So today we're going to be breaking down what actually happened and why SpaceX is involved, which is kind of funny as well, in my opinion. And what this means for Claude Code and what this means for AI agents and the AI race itself. This is a turning point, especially into the power race. AI, power, chips, it's all just coming together, right? Let's get straight into it, man. So what's actually happening is pretty simple. A simplified version is this. Anthropic just announced that they signed an agreement with SpaceX, right? That's just to use their compute power. You can actually see it right here. Beautiful place, man. I would love to have that, you feel me? This is SpaceX's, I think this is specifically the Colossus 1 data center, the facility that gives Anthropic access to more than 300 megawatts of new capacity and over 220,000 Nvidia GPUs. That is not a small upgrade. That is not, we added a few servers into the back room. That is a massive amount of infrastructure, right? And the number I really want y'all to sit with is not only the GPU count, it's the power number itself, right? 300 megawatts is a meaningful chunk of a city's electricity demand. 1 megawatt can power roughly 750 to 1,000 homes. So when you talk about these AI data centers right now, we're not talking about just software. We're talking about substations, cooling, real estate, power contracts, and physical infrastructure, right? It's a lot that's going on into this. And man, what did I do just to own one of these, right? Just one. Just give me one. Just give me one. But that's the cleanest way to say that this is the AI race and that it just became a utilities race as well. Or even simpler, the AI race is now a real estate and power race because you need places to put these things and you need energy to run it. You can't prompt, engineer your way around not having GPUs. And Anthropic already has said that allowing them to do this is allowing them to raise the limits for their Claude users, which we just saw them talk about right here as well. So, hopefully it stays good. The biggest changes are that Claude Code's 5-hour rate limits that we talked about are being doubled now for Pro, Max, and Team. And seat-based enterprise plans. They're removing the peak hour limit reduction that we just spoke about as well on Claude Code for Pro members and Max members, and they're raising API rate limits for Claude Opus models. So if you're using Claude Code right now, this part is what may matter to you. You should be able to work longer before, hitting those cutoffs. And if you're a Pro or Max member, those peak hours should not punish you no more, right? I do a lot of mine at nighttime anyway, so I'm actually on the other spectrum of this, but to each its own, right? And if you're building with the API, especially with Opus, Anthropic is saying you'll get more room to work. Hopefully we don't see it getting dumbed down like we did recently, because people were accusing of it, and it actually came out that it was fact that Opus was actually a little more stupid as of recent. That's the consumer facing part of all this, right? But the deeper story is that Claude is not just trying to be a chatbot anymore, right? Claude is trying to become a work platform. Why compute matters more than people think? Well, here's the thing. People miss about AI when I think about it, right? This is what it is. We talk about AI like it's just software, like you just download an app, right? And then you ask it a question and then it gives you an answer. But behind every single AI answer, there's a ridiculous amount of infrastructure that goes along with it. And I've been learning that myself by running local models. I got 2 DGX Sparks, and them boys get hot just to say, hey, how you doing? That I remember how people were saying thank you to a bot. This cost the company thousands of dollars, saying thank you or hi, how you doing? Like, this wasteful text burns so much power and energy. Now I understand, seeing it done here in my home, and I'm looking forward to seeing what my wife has to say about the electricity bill. But DGX Sparks does a really good job at actually their power compared to like a 3090 or RTX. That's another thing for another video, right? But, there are GPUs, there are data centers, there's electricity, there's cooling, there's networking as well. Then there's memory, right? Then there's storage. There's teams that are trying to keep all this stuff running while millions of people are hitting the model at the same exact time, right? For, hey, how you doing? Thank you. Can you make me a cat image or whatever, right? I mean, I've been going stupid with image too, that's it. But that's why sometimes the AI tools feel amazing one day and they feel limited the next, for the most part, right? It's not always about the model that got worse. Sometimes the man is just outrunning the infrastructure of that model. And if you use these tools every single day, you already know what I'm talking about, because we literally just talked about it. If you're in Claude Code and you've been building something and you finally are in the flow and then boom, you hit a rate limit, or you're trying to use the best model and it tells you to come back, at a later date, or if you're running an agent workflow and halfway through it, it just doesn't have enough room to keep going. Those things are going to start, hopefully, not being a problem as much anymore. And that's because when Anthropic gets access to this giant chunk of compute, the question is not just, will Claude be smarter? The question is, can Claude finally breathe? So speaking of the story, something else that's, in this story that's got a little bit more interesting alongside with this is that they announced this research preview feature called Dreaming. And no, that does not mean that Claude is sitting there having sci-fi dreams or nothing of that nature, like a robot in a movie or anything, right? But the simple way to understand it is this, right? Claude agents can now review past sessions, spot patterns, learn from reoccurring mistakes, and organize memory so that future work can get done better, faster. They also announced outcome multi-agent orchestration and webhooks. In plain English, because it can sometimes get a little crazy even for me, outcomes mean you can now define what success will actually look like, and the system itself can actually check whether the agent actually got there or not. So multi-agent orchestration, one big thing for me, means one lead agent can break a big job into smaller pieces and hand those pieces off to specialized agents. It's been pretty much already done as is, but it's just something that they're adding in more of alongside with this extra compute. Anthropic is trying to build a system here where agents can run longer jobs, hand off work, check quality, connect to a real workflow, and then that brings us right back to compute. Agents need compute more than they need, just to be a chatbot. Multi-agent systems need even more compute. Longer running work needs more compute. Memory, evaluation, they need more as well. So the agent wave is going to be more infrastructure consumed and constrained not just a model itself. It's going to be about workflows, and workflows take an assembly line of patterns that then will take an assembly line and need more and more compute. So this is just a great way to do this at the end of the day. And overall, just bring and ship out better projects at scale. Now, you got Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, and now XI becomes the interesting in like a different way when you really think about it, right? Because Musk infrastructure stack is supplying compute to a competitor. That's the part that I really wanted to get in. So the timing here makes sense, right? Anthropic announces a huge compute deal. At the same time, they're pushing the product in a different direction that, means that it needs way more compute as well. Because they just, Anthropic, after what they did with the OpenClaw, for the most part, we saw that Anthropic built their own OpenClaw. So this is just a finalized stamp of what they're doing here. They want you to build a whole entire agentic system all through them and them only. And I can't lie, I have OpenClaw, I got Claude Code, and I use both of them, but Anthropic is definitely doing their thing. But that's the story now. SpaceX and XAI twist. Now let's talk about the weird part, right? Because this is the weird part. SpaceX and Anthropic themselves, this is not a partnership that most people would have expected, right? Of course. Elon Musk has criticized Anthropic before. He has his own AI company, as you know, with Grok. And with XAI and Grok, and also Colossus is tied directly into that Musk AI infrastructure story. So when people see SpaceX leasing compute capacity to Anthropic, the reaction is kind of like, why or wait or what? Like, that's what I at first thought when I actually saw this. But honestly, from a business standpoint as well, it makes sense. If SpaceX has compute capacity and Anthropic needs compute capacity, that is a market within itself. It's kind of like with what Apple just did recently with Siri. Instead of just, attaching Siri to some model, I think Siri has opened up the harness to allow any model to be implemented within it. So when you get the new iPhone, you can add Claude Code or Claude to be your Siri's model, or you can add OpenAI or whatever model you want. You could pretty much do that. Compute now is going to be a whole nother market. And Elon is like kind of thinking, I think in his standpoint, like, forget trying to compete with these guys being the best model. I got infrastructure, I got bread, I got the physical part. At the end of the day, you're going to need power to run these models. You can have the smartest model ever, but if you don't have the power to turn it on, you're SOL. So I think that's where it looks, start looking less like a company versus a company type of race and more like a infrastructure economics of some sort, right? Just overall, competitors can still become customers at the end of the day. That's how I look at it. Rivals can still rent capacity. Rivals can still work with each other. You looked at it with Apple and Windows. So this is definitely, and I would say on some type of way to look at it, the new version of Apple and Windows like working together like they did back in the early 90s, of course, right? So if you're watching this space, don't just watch model launches anymore, okay? Watch the data center deals that are going to be going on. Watch the chip supply, the power agreements. Watch which company gets capacity and where it gets to squeeze. I know Elon's trying to put stuff on the moon now. And also, I think this is a slight jab to OpenAI themselves because Elon got some sort of lawsuit going on with them as well. So just keep that in mind. Because at the end of the day, the winner of AI might not be just a company who has the smartest model. That's what it might be. Not. It might be the company that can actually let people use it. That's a break. Sorry. That's the breakdown here with me. Anthropic gets a major SpaceX compute deal. Claude Code's limits get to go up. Peak hour restrictions come down. Opus API capacity is increasing. And, it's looking like a good time to be alive, if you ask me. But let me know you guys' thoughts and opinions down below in the comment section. If you like this type of AI news, I'll keep delivering it, man. It's pretty dope. And I talked a lot. But, yeah, I'll see you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.